Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Real Estate with Nicole. I'm your host, Nicole, and today we're going to look a bit more closely at one of the more frequent reasons we move, and that's being closer to family. I touched on this reason in episode 33. However, in this particular episode, we'll explore other things that also influence decision making for moving closer to family. So, moving closer to family may, on the surface, seem simple and perhaps even easy. However, if you start with your why of moving, this could help you or us to uncover things that could change our real estate investment strategy, or at least should be factored into that strategy to the best of our ability. Many people in the GTA are choosing to move closer to family, and as a result, we are seeing a rise in the number of multi generational households. Why? Finances or affordability is an obvious reason. However, during this episode, we'll also explore how the aging population and the high potential for caregiver burnout can influence our real estate investment decisions. We'll discuss ways in which we can potentially mitigate the silent and unspoken consequence that's seen sometimes with moving closer to family, caregiver burnout. Grab your favorite beverage, get comfortable, and let's get started. So, why do people move closer to family? I mentioned it before. So, moving closer to family is a significant decision that many of us make every year, whether it's an individual or families. And some of the key reasons behind this trend include one, emotional support. So, being near to our loved ones provides emotional support, which is often crucial during life changes, such as starting a family. So, help from your parents, help from your friends that are your best buddies, perhaps experiencing a health crisis and you need that support of the family. Maybe you're single and you can't go through that alone and you need that family support. Facing the loss of a loved one, that's also a key reason for that emotional support and moving back home or moving closer to home. So, I can give an example from a personal experience where I saw one of my friends who was diagnosed with a terminal illness. She had a sister. Maybe they weren't as close as they would like to be. However, when she received that diagnosis, the first thing that her sister compassionately did was allow her to move in with her and her boyfriend in order to have that support and to have that infrastructure and to have people around her that loved her and cared for her. In addition to that, just think about this. That's a family member, her employer. So she was a nanny at the time. And because of her situation, she wasn't able to really care for the children. But that employer, they generously continued to provide her healthcare benefits so she could actually get the healthcare that she needed in order to potentially to come back. So it's not necessarily just family, friends, employers, people with compassion to really provide that emotional support that's needed with regards to moving closer to loved ones. On a personal situation, when my mom passed away, I decided to move back closer to home. My father, my brother, my relatives, no one asked. It was just something I felt I personally needed. And I just had the feeling that It was more important to be closer to family and really be there for supporting them in that time of distress and challenges and just a change in a life situation. Another example is childcare and shared responsibilities. So, oftentimes for young families, having grandparents nearby to help with childcare is a bonus. I know from speaking to many of my friends, this is something that has helped them tremendously in alleviating the stress, potentially caring for the child when the child is first born, and actually when the child progresses through school. Having that support system there to help with the shared responsibilities of family. It could be cooking, it could be taking care of the children, and it allowed many of the parents to continue their jobs knowing they had someone there to assist them with childcare. I think in our society today, that need for being closer to family is felt even more. I know when I was growing up and my parents would talk about what it was like growing up, and they were always speaking about their aunts, this cousin, that cousin, uncles. And it was like everyone in the family was taking care. If someone wasn't able to take care of that individual at the time, they would stay with their aunt or their uncle, and they would receive that kind of a shared responsibility with the child care. And it's not as easy today. We're further apart and we're so much more busier. So being closer to family is a significant factor. And also, kind of what I mentioned up at the top, elder care. As our parents and grandparents age, being close to family really ensures that they receive the care and the attention that's needed. And this is particularly important as, Canada's population does age. Um, we're seeing this more and more as a trend. So, what's the impact of this aging population? As I mentioned, it's a significant demographic change, and especially in urban areas like Toronto. So, how does this affect real estate? Well, in terms of demand for housing, we have a strong demand right now. And we know that we have a shortage and there are some affordability issues, but a demand for housing that's accessible. We need homes that can accommodate the needs of older adults, such as single story homes or bungalows, or properties with accessibility modifications, such as toilets, bathroom rails, lifts, ramps, anything that can help elders or individuals with disabilities. So it might not even be an elder, but someone who's younger and who has a disability to have a safe space that they can thrive in. So that's one of the key things we're seeing with regards to the population. We are also seeing a rise in multi generational homes. So, more families are opting for this type of living arrangement to help care for aging relatives or to have those relatives, parents who are able to help care for younger children. So, this really impacts the types of properties that are in high demand in the Greater Toronto area. So, with that, what are people doing? They're upsizing and downsizing. What's happening across the generations? So, when it comes to real estate, the concepts of downsizing and upsizing sometimes hold different meaning or different importance to the various generations. So, when we look at downsizing, we see baby boomers and older adults, many in this generation. They're entering or they've already entered retirement, and downsizing is a really attractive choice for them. So, they want to move to a smaller, more manageable home. They can reduce any maintenance costs and any burdens of upkeeping the property, shoveling snow, raking leaves, mowing the lawn. And additionally, it allows a lot of these older adults to free up capital for other retirement needs or experiences, such as travel. So I know many retirees have downsized and they are enjoying life and traveling. Some retirees or people closer to a retirement, they are freeing up some of the capital in their properties to help the younger generations, their children, their grandchildren. So downsizing has that appeal for baby boomers and older adults in that way. Well, let's look at empty nesters. So, once the children have moved out, many parents, many families find themselves in homes that are much, much larger than is necessary. So, for them, downsizing can help them to transition into a new phase of life. It provides them, or it can provide them, with financial flexibility and perhaps the ability to move to more desirable areas. They might want to move to more urban centers, so being in the middle of downtown where they have access to ready access to public transportation, ready access to entertainment. They could move to warmer climates where maybe it's more beneficial for their health, where they could have access to recreational activities such as golfing for golfers. They can golf year round or other things that meet their interests. So for empty nesters, it does provide that opportunity to explore what they've always dreamed of doing. Let's take a look at upsizing. And when we look at upsizing, let's look to some of the younger families. So, as families grow, upsizing often becomes a necessity. A larger home can afford more space for children to play and grow, as well as for parents to create a really comfortable living environment for everyone involved. And this often includes, you know, thinking about things of the proximity to the schools that they want, to family friendly neighborhoods, access to all the amenities that would help them to have a higher quality of life. Additionally, I mentioned earlier that multi generational households is really on the rise in the greater Toronto area. And upsizing is one of the key things that you'll see with these multi generational households. The living arrangement will allow for more family members. Um, it could include aging parents. It could include, based on a life situation, returning adult children or returning adult children with their children. This could help to foster closer family bonds and to help with shared caregiving responsibilities, depending on the particular situation. So, we are seeing really a growth in the need or the desire for those multi generational households or opportunities. So, real estate investment considerations. For those of us who are considering real estate investment, these trends present both challenges and opportunities. So, in terms of investing in senior friendly communities, so there's a potential for these communities designed for older adults. They're equipped with amenities and services catering to many of the needs of these adults. Some of the challenges is that here in the GTA, we may not have as many as the demand may require in the coming years. Multi-unit properties. So investing in properties that can house multiple generations or rental units for caregivers can also be a strategic move. So that's a really good potential opportunity. However, these multi-unit properties oftentimes are very highly sought after. And because of the high demand, it's important to really keep an eye on what's happening, the neighborhood, what you need, and how you can potentially attain one of these multi unit properties. We've definitely seen a high demand and high interest with a lot of investors out there with these types of properties. So that's something to keep in mind. It's a highly strategic opportunity, But the challenge is there's a high demand and a lot of competition with regards to obtaining these types of properties. I'm going to pivot now. So, what is it about, or what are these, or who are these invisible day to day heroes? Heroes, I'm calling them moms, dads, brothers, sisters, sons, daughters, friends, and neighbor. And it's a role that we often don't necessarily consciously think about, and that's a caregiver. So, what is a caregiver? Per the Ontario Caregiver organization, a caregiver is defined as an ordinary person who provides physical and or emotional support to a family member, partner, friend, or neighbor. For me, based on that definition, I think almost all of us are caregivers. Of note, the Ontario Caregiver Organization, OCO, they provide caregivers with one point of access to information, services, and support to empower and help enable caregivers to be successful in their role. Where gaps exist in caregiver programs and services, the OCO partners with caregivers, healthcare providers, and other organizations to find new and innovative ways to bridge those gaps so all caregivers, regardless of age, condition, geographic location, have access to the help they need. So, why do I say this? I say this because there's what's called or what's known as caregiver burnout. And caregiver burnout is defined as a state of physical, emotional, and mental exhaustion that can occur when individuals care for someone with a chronic illness or disability. And this phenomenon is becoming increasingly prevalent, especially in the aging population, as the aging population grows in Canada and in Ontario. However, I do want to point out that it really isn't limited by age. You could be a caregiver to someone who is younger, middle age, and the elderly. Some statistics of caregiver burnout in Canada and the GTA. So, its prevalence. According to a report by the Canadian Institute for Health Information, about 8 million Canadians provide informal care to a family member or friend, and nearly half of these caregivers report experiencing stress or burnout. Ontario has an estimated 4 million of these caregivers. That's half. What's the impact in the GTA? In the GTA, where the population it's highly dense and it's diverse, caregiver burnout is a significant concern. Many caregivers juggle work with their caregiving responsibilities, often leading to increased stress levels. And according to the Ontario Caregiver Organization, or OCO, they estimate that around 29% of caregivers in Ontario feel overwhelmed by their responsibilities. What are the consequences? I think you can probably guess. Caregivers experiencing burnout are at a higher risk for health issues of their own, including anxiety, depression, and chronic health problems. This affects not only their well being, but their ability to provide care for those who they are willingly helping to care for in their situation or in their community. So why am I talking about this? I think it's important because it's often a hidden but critical factor that has an influence on real estate investment. I think we understand, yes, we want to move. We want to be closer to family. And why? We're moving closer to family to help with caregiving or to receive caregiving. But let's discuss, now that we understand the why, let's discuss how and what we should consider when we're moving closer to family, friends, and whether we want to provide it or to receive that support. These factors are all important for consideration. First group of thinking or ideas is location and proximity. Where you're moving to, the location. Is it close to family? Well, obviously, that's one of the main reasons to be closer to family, but is it also close to support networks? It's critical. Choosing a location that allows us to easily access our family and the support systems and potentially to enhance the potential for respite. So, taking that break now and then, giving yourself the opportunity to just take care of yourself. This will help in sharing caregiver responsibilities when you're closer to other family members and support networks, reduce travel stress. And what I say or what I'm suggesting, don't try to be a superhero. Take a break. So I mentioned the Ontario Caregiver Association earlier, and they have tools for caregivers. And they have a quiz that you can take to help you determine, where you are on that spectrum of caregiving, what kind of help you might need to receive or information you might need to receive. They have a section that provides support for caregivers. They have a worksheet for smart goal setting. So, making sure if you're setting goals, they're specific, they're measurable, they're achievable. So, they're really realistic and they're timelines for you for your goals. They have checklists and they have an I Am a Caregiver toolkit that you can download and review for yourself. They also have a section on there if you're looking to hire a caregiver, if you are planning to give caregiving yourself or you're currently giving caregiving, but you're seeing that this has become a little bit overwhelming. There's the opportunity to investigate hiring someone to assist you and your family. With regards to location and proximity, it's access to healthcare facilities. Are you close enough? Is the property or the investment that you're looking for is close to those quality healthcare services, the physicians? It's really critical for both the healthcare giver and the recipient of care to be close and have access to these facilities. It offers a peace of mind and it helps to reduce travel time for any appointments that you may need to attend. Next, property type and features. Is does it have accessibility features? I mentioned some of them before. Ramps, wider doorways if a wheelchair is needed, step-free access, all of these things, grab bars, just ensuring that the accessibility features that you need are either with the property, existing property, or they are features that potentially you can add to the property, that it's something that is doable, that it is, you can adjust the property to suit the needs of your family member. As I mentioned before, I talked about downsizing or upsizing, trying to really decide based on your particular situation which one is more appropriate for you, for your particular situation and really understanding the dynamics that goes along with whether you choose to downsize or whether you're choosing to upsize and or move into more of a multi-generational household. Financial considerations, budget planning, understanding your budget. Not only the budget to purchase the property, but the budget that includes in terms of the renovations I mentioned, ongoing maintenance, and any expenses that may be associated with caregiving. So, yes, it's the real estate transaction, but it's also all those other factors that may not be front of mind when we're thinking about moving closer to home that should be factored in to help make a well informed decision. Is there potential for rental income? Maybe you're moving into a multi generational unit where there is the ability to have a rental unit to provide additional income to help support the caregiving or provide financial relief if it's needed. So, those are other options to think about if you're thinking to upsize or thinking of multi generational household. Another group of thoughts or areas to think about or questions to mull over are related to community and lifestyle. What community amenities are there that will help to support a healthy and balanced lifestyle? Could be parks, it could be community centers, it could be social clubs. Things that can help to provide outlets for the care recipients, but also caregivers, times when you can take a break and go to the gym, or your caregiver can take a break. If your mother or your father or grandparents are taking care of young kids, is there a social club that's close by that they can take a break away from the smaller children? Public transportation, ensuring that wherever location, the property that you're looking at has reliable public transportation options. And this can be an advantage for a caregiver who's working away from home. So there's easy access, less stress with regards to driving. Or it could be if you have a caregiver that's coming in, maybe they don't have a car, maybe providing them with as easy access to come and help to provide caregiving as possible is so important and an important factor to consider in this scenario. Legal and emotional support. From a legal perspective, consulting with a real estate lawyer to understand any legal implications of a property purchase, especially if it involves shared ownership with family members, caregivers, friends, really understand what those implications are with that real estate transaction if this is the case for your particular situation. And emotional well being. Prioritize location and home environment that contributes to not only your emotional well being as a caregiver, but those of all the other family members who will be living in the household, the person who's receiving care. This will help to mitigate, tamp down that potential for caregiver burnout. So I think by one piece of advice, I mentioned don't be a superhero. I also say don't try to do everything all at once. It's important to make sure you consider all of these factors. Sometimes you're not going to get everything that you want or need in a particular investment, but if you can start with the most important items, and then as long as there's potential to do the renovations to bring it up to what you ultimately need, it's really important for consideration because trying to do it all at once oftentimes adds additional stress as a caregiver and potentially defeats some of the suggestions with regards to really mitigating and understanding what you need to do and how you need to do things over a period of time. However, by considering these factors, you can make an informed decision. And that not only helps you to move closer to family and achieve your real estate investment, but helps you to mitigate the challenge of potential caregiver burnout. To wrap up, I just want to say that moving to be closer to family is more than just a logistical challenge or a logistical change. It's a decision that's deeply rooted in emotional and practical considerations. Getting to the why of the need to move closer to family is important. Really gets you to understand what's going on. And once you understand this, then working through the how and what, I think will be much more streamlined. And perhaps we may be able to mitigate caregiver burnout or at least recognize it sooner. We may be able to mitigate family frustration, financial strain, by looking beyond, moving into the same town, house, neighborhood, and truly analyzing what you want to achieve and what success will look like for your situation. I guarantee it won't be perfect. However, you will be less frustrated and have resources in your back pocket to access and questions to consider so you can get the answers. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Real Estate with Nicole. I hope you found the discussion insightful. And if you have any thoughts or questions, feel free to reach out. By the way, I'm not sure if you ever listened to the TED Talk Start With Why with Simon Sinek. If you haven't, I highly recommend it. Be sure to follow and leave a review if you enjoyed this episode. This is Nicole Lopez signing off. Stay informed, proactive, and take care.